I didn't finish reading over my notes. Hold on.
I didn't write any notes. I'm just going to comment on what you say.
Oh, God. Well, I don't know all the stuff.
Well, you're the one picking these difficult topics to talk about.
No.
Yeah. I didn't say anything about atomic bombs.
Yes, you did. You said World War II, and I literally just tossed out something like development of the atomic bomb. And you were like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going along with you. I didn't pick that topic. You did that. I wouldn't have done that one. There's a lot of science behind this.
Well, then I did. Yeah, which is why I thought it was the reason you said yeah.
I'm not a physicist. You said I like history.
Then become one.
You said that. You said I like history.
We haven't prepped anything else. This is the only thing we've prepped.
I didn't even prep this. That's what I'm saying. I have no investment in this topic. I can switch really fast without it hurting my feelings. I'm a busy man. I live a busy life.
Anybody out there who is interested in being a co-host on this show, reach out to me, please.
From arttoadams@gmail.com.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of From Art to Adams,
The Ultimate Curiosity Show.
I'm Brandon Shoemaker.
This is Michael.
And this week we are diving back into this is more than just science. It's science and a new area that we really haven't talked on here before, history.
Yeah, because we're not good at history.
What? No, I'm very good at history. You might not be, but I am.
That's true. That's true.
No, history. Well, I mean, but you like history.
I do like history.
Yes. You may not know like all the factoids and stuff like that, but you like the topics associated with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we decided to, branch out into the area of history. And so we picked a topic that kind of blends the realm of history and science, for that matter.
Yeah.
And so we are talking about the development, usage, and aftermath of the atomic bomb.
The boom boom.
So, and this subject has kind of regained interest for a number of reasons over the past year and a half or so because of the popularity of the movie Oppenheimer, I would say, which came out last summer, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get around to seeing it until this past summer, but...
What came out when the movie theater, when it came out? What else did we go
Barbie.
see? Oh, that's
right. They came out at the same time because a lot of people did the Barbie Oppenheimer double feature.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't, but...
No, you just went to see Barbie on its own.
No, I didn't see that until it was on Netflix or whatever, and I watched it with you and Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Although I have to say, I really did appreciate the message that the Barbie movie had. I thought it was well done. Very tongue-in-cheek, of course, but it still presented the feminist message, which I thought was good.
I was dragged to the movies. Anyway, we need to go back on subject.
Yeah, so back to history and the atomic bomb. So yeah, the movie Oppenheimer kind of brought this topic back into the forefront of the zeitgeist. But another thing on a more negative side that has brought it more into the popular... what's another word for zeitgeist? I hate it when I do that.
I don't even know what that means.
The zeitgeist is like, the collective popular mind, hive mind of the time, like current affairs, the current thinking.
Oh, I have no idea.
Of the world is zeitgeist. It's a German word. Not that that's important. Anyway, into the popular
mindset.
Yeah.
Forefront of the minds.
Yeah. But
thought processy.
Processy?
You use the word zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist.
Yeah. And okay, don't make fun. You don't even know what that means. You're over here talking about.
Yes, I do.
But you can't think of another way of saying it.
I know. I do that all the time where I think of a big word, but then I can't think of a simpler word that means the same thing. Usually because the word that I've picked is the right word for what I'm trying to say, and then I can't think of any. Anyway, not the point. I'm going to delete all of this.
I don't think you should.
Keep all this in?
I think you should.
Have mercy. Okay, well, if I do
All right,
what
Uncle Jesse.
Oh, have mercy. No, that's have mercy. Oh God, no, that was awful.
No,
that was awful. I would definitely
It was awful when he did it.
That's true, it was. Love me some John Stamos though, but yeah, have mercy was always kind of really. Anyway, we didn't talk about the other sort of elephant in the room for this week, and that's the fact that it's our first week that we are doing video for the podcast. We attempted it last week.
Oh my God, I forgot we have the cameras on us.
Yay! Finally! You've forgotten. There you go.
No, I'm over here just not even really paying attention to you.
That's the point.
I'm paying attention, but you know what I mean? Like I'm working on
you're supposed to pay attention to me. You're not supposed to pay attention to the camera.
Well, yeah, I'm not even paying attention to the camera.
Good. Because last week you were voguing and stuff in it. When we first
that was
turned
just
it
practicing.
On. Okay, for your Saturday night.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we've had, and I think I deleted all that other stuff.
The original footage?
At the beginning. Well, no, not the footage. I still have the footage. I'll throw some of that in for good measure. But, of Michael voguing. But, no, we attempted it last week and then we had some technical difficulties. So this week should be the first official week that we actually have video for the podcast. We've had a YouTube channel since the very beginning, and it's been updated weekly with the latest episode to drop at a little after. I think it drops at like noon on Thursdays.
Nothing really like a video though.
Yeah, it was just our logo and then the episode title.
Yeah.
So, but this week we are here. We are live. Well, not live, but we're live, but not at the same time as you're watching this. So
we're also alive. So,
that's what I said. We're alive, but we're live.
I mean, we are live right now.
We are recording. This is a pre-recorded podcast, but it's live for us because we're here
because we're live
moment. Yes. Anyway. All right. So there's that. Back to so you remember last week we talked about our listeners from around the country. I mean from around the world.
Yes.
We have a new country that has at least 2 people that have listened. G'day, mate. Thanks for listening all the way from Australia, from the down under.
That is so stereotypical American.
I know. I wasn't going for most authentic.
Just don't insult them.
What?
I'm just saying. That's American stereotypes.
Fine.
Are like the worst thing. Anyway, go for it.
Anyway, g'day, and thanks for listening. Anyway, I learned everything I know about the Australian accent from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. What?
You'll be a frock on a rock.
Yeah, the last 2 parts of that we can say. Since we are a censored podcast. Or a clean podcast, I guess you could say. Although I did have to censor myself in the last episode, or next to the last episode. I don't remember now. All right. So the atomic bomb in history, of course, it started with our good old friend, our favorite physicist from history, or mathematician from history, Albert Einstein, when he, made the calculations that discovered that it would be possible to create a nuclear fission weapon.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's the interesting thing about Einstein making this discovery. He told the American government about the discovery basically because he felt a sense of obligation, because he knew that if he had realized this, then other mathematicians and other physicists around the world would make the same
figure it out.
Realization and inform, the Axis governments as well. So, he didn't do it because he wanted the bomb to be made. He did it because he, wanted to make sure that it was at least in the hands of the Allies.
Yeah, but to be fair, what did he think they were going to do with that information?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. He knew they were going to build a bomb with it, but again, he felt a sense of obligation to to let them know that this was a possibility and to say, hey, I'm not the only one who's going to realize this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then you have, the Manhattan Project, which starts up and that was headed by Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a number of things that if you look at in the development of the atomic bomb that are really kind of really impressive and groundbreaking, unrelated to the actual bomb being built. When you think about the fact that at Los Alamos, they essentially built an entire town just for the people who were working on the project.
Well, they did the same thing in Oak Ridge, though.
Well, yeah, they did. Well, but that's the thing. You had Oak Ridge in Tennessee and Los Alamos in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget, what was Oak Ridge responsible for doing? Which aspect of it were they doing? That weren't they responsible for like building a specific component of the bomb or something? Because Los Alamos was the main place where they were working on it, but then Oak Ridge was doing something. Oh, were they refining the uranium?
I think they were either doing that or they were mining it or something. I think they had part of the actual like radioactive chemistry aspect of it.
Yeah. Google it and see, because like I said, I don't remember. But I want to say it was something like that, like they were enriching the uranium or something like that.
Clinton Engineer Works was the production installment of the Manhattan Project that produced the enriched uranium.
Okay, yeah. So, but yeah, they built entire towns so that these scientists and engineers.
Well, not just that. You also had a lot of females working on the project also. So they were secretaries and everything that you would need for a project this big, but also this secretive.
Right.
They went directly into Oak Ridge, which was basically nothing.
Yeah.
For that purpose of it being secretive and kept secret.
Well, and the same thing with Los Alamos, just out in the desert where there was nothing. So, they go in and they build these entire towns, on one hand, yes, to keep them isolated, but also so that the scientists and engineers could bring their families with them. They had, they were raising children in these, government towns.
Yeah.
That were built specifically for the purpose of constructing the first atomic weapons.
Well, I'm looking at Oak Ridge. It was selected also because of the location in the mountains where they were actually, the TVA was in there. There's access to water.
Tennessee Valley Authority.
Yep. Sorry, I guess living where we lived.
Yeah.
In Knoxville, we just say TVA, but it's kind of weird that we never actually drove out there.
I know. I was thinking about that.
I was just looking at the map of it, of where it was at, and I was like, this is like right around
like
the corner.
It was right
from where
there.
We were.
Yeah. I mean, because people would always talk about, I had to go to Oak Ridge today. I know. We should have. So, yeah, we used to live in Knoxville for a little under a year. And that's literally just what, like, I don't know, 20 miles, if that, away from Oak Ridge?
No, not even that. Looking at this map, it's probably about maybe 10 miles.
Yeah. And somehow we, as much of nerds as we are, we never made our way there while we lived there. Is there any place like that around here that I need to make sure that while I'm living here, I go visit?
No.
I mean, I did the Sixth Floor Museum in Dallas, of course, but
yeah, but you haven't visited South Texas. You need to go to San Antonio, and you need to go to.
I know. I want to go. Yeah, I want to see the Alamo,
the historical missions in South Texas and stuff.
I need to have a school trip that needs to go down there for some reason. But anyway, so, the development of the bomb itself, it starts with this idea from Einstein. It's built and, all the math is worked out by these scientists and engineers in Los Alamos and Oak Ridge. And then it's also finally tested in the desert, the Trinity site testing. And then after that, it is put into use during World War II. And the interesting thing about it is how they really didn't even have to use the bombs. I say interesting, but really tragic. You have the towns or the cities of in Japan.
Thank you.
You have this
into Japanese.
in the Japan. Um, yeah, it was at the end of the war. The Japanese were on the verge of losing the Pacific Theater anyway. And so you have Truman, who decides to drop the first bomb on Hiroshima and then the second on Nagasaki.
We've just got
like
to
a week
end this.
apart.
Like, we've just got to end it, and we've got too much going on, and we got to send a statement. Because didn't they, like, if they didn't drop it, wasn't there pressure that somebody else was going to come in and... Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
that basically it was another one of those times when America wanted to be the first. And... You know, but it begs the question, you know, was it necessary to actually use it in the war? You know, would it have been enough just to
drop it and say, hey, look what we got. If you keep on doing what you're doing, we're going to end up using it.
Exactly. You know, show or release the video of the Trinity test and say, this is what we have, you know, your call, your move, Japan.
I don't know.
I mean, and that's something that you know, historians debate to this day, you know, whether or not that was the right call.
Yeah, but as a parent, you know what an empty threat does to your kid.
Well, but
they call your bluff.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I mean, it's not quite like saying I'm going to throw your cell phone out the window of this moving car, which I think I actually witnessed happen over the weekend, by the way.
No, but you got to be like that man that ran over his kid's video game system and video games with a lawnmower.
But again, that's debatable, because, you know, was it necessary to actually use it there? Or they could have, you know, dropped it on an uninhabited Japanese island.
So let me ask you this question. And this is, I guess we're steering away from the actual topic of the bomb and more into the philosophy of it and repercussions. But we haven't used that. And no other country has ever used that since.
No, right.
But with everything going on in the world, would we not be justified right now? Or would another country not be justified to drop or use?
I don't think so. I think, and that's something that was kind of going back to Einstein for a second, you know, he, along with a group of other scientists, came out publicly afterwards, you know, all stating that this is a power that should never be used again.
Right.
They, you know, wanted an end to all bomb productions and for the bombs that had been produced to be destroyed.
Right.
So
and that obviously didn't happen.
Of course.
Since we have multiple countries now and with arsenals.
And we have, you know, the situation that we have right now in the Middle East where, you know, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I mean, I've run through scenarios in my head that, you know, lead us to nuclear holocaust given the current circumstances. So, I mean, it's a scary time, and it you know, kind of reminds me of those feelings that I sensed in the 80s during the Cold War, where I didn't understand the politics, but I knew that there was this tension that existed. But see, in that end, though, that was an empty threat. So that Cold War example of what happened between us and the Soviet Union would have been exactly what would have happened between Truman and the Japanese. It would have had that sense of, this is what we have, we can use it. We won't, but we can. Yeah.
Just like what the Soviet Union did with us and said, hey, look, there's a lot of tension here, and both of us were on edge. Both countries are on edge because of that. They both had access to it. So would it not have generated a sense of apprehension, though? I
mean, I definitely think it would have. Well, but remember, the original question was it necessary to end the war? You know, so that's what I'm saying.
To that end, though, I think the war was already over.
Exactly. So, and that's what a lot of scholars have said, was that it was unnecessary for us to use it.
Well, that was our period dot, I guess.
And our what?
Period dot.
Period dot.
The war was coming to an end. We wanted to go ahead and put a period dot on it.
You mean a period?
Dot.
There is no dot. The period is the dot. What do you mean period dot? Is that some sort of saying that the young folk say these days?
Yes.
Oh God, that's going to drive me insane then.
Yes.
Saying period, verbalizing period enough for the past 5 or 10 years, however long it's been now, has been driving me crazy as it was, but that's even worse.
Oh, well, I mean, we were showing our Riz is what was happening.
No, stop it. I can't. Although apparently they call it brain rot, appropriately enough. What?
That's what they have. Brain rot.
Brain rot? Yes.
Not my fourth period class, though. Y'all have good brains.
My fourth period, on the other hand, well, it depends on which one you're talking about.
What do you mean? Oh, A day or B day?
Yeah. But anyway, back on topic. Why don't you talk about that? Because I do find the whole implosion, explosion thing really fascinating.
Because there's difference between fission and fusion.
Yeah. Fusion, we have not been able to replicate on Earth.
Correct. Because that's what the sun does.
Fusion is what happens in the sun that
right,
combines hydrogen into helium atoms.
And so
the science behind the bomb is interesting as it is, just because you have an element like uranium, which is radioactively unstable, and you bombard it, I guess, with the implosion component of the bomb, which is sort of like a traditional explosion, but it's focused inward on this uranium core, which is what causes that's what starts the chain reaction of splitting the uranium atoms, which is, so you split one uranium atom and it bombards the atoms next to it, which starts that chain reaction, which is how you get this immensely explosive,
very fast, very large explosion.
Yeah.
Do you know who the originators of the fusion or fission reaction was? Like, who discovered it?
Is that not what Einstein
did?
Well, then what was Einstein's contribution? What was it exactly that did he just discover the math that it would be possible, or
in bomb form? Yes, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was 2 German scientists, actually 4 German scientists, an Swedish physicist.
Oh, is this the group that was headed by, you're going to say his name and I'm going to know.
Otto Hahn, Fritz Strassmann,
no.
Lis Mittner, and Otto Robert Finch.
Never mind. None of those names I know.
Yeah.
I was thinking of, I forget. It doesn't matter.
Well, this was in 1938. Now, I find it odd that Hahn was the only one who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the discovery of fission. And I think part of that is you have to find out what the death dates were for other people.
Now, when you say they discovered fission, you mean they discovered that it was possible to create fission?
Yeah, they had the ideas for what to do and how to do it and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it says right here, like Hahn and Strassmann.
Now, those names together do sound familiar now.
That was the 2 chemists from Germany.
Yeah, okay.
So they bombarded uranium with slow neutrons and discovered that barium had been produced. Hahn suggested the bursting of this nucleus, but he was unsure of what the physical basis for the results were. They reported their findings to a physicist in Sweden who had months earlier had fled Nazi Germany. And then they proved that the uranium nucleus had indeed been split and published their findings in the magazine Nature.
Okay.
And they were able to calculate the energy released from each disintegration was approximately 200 mega electron volts.
Oh, wow. Well, and that's okay. So let's talk about Einstein's famous equation for a second, because that, everybody knows E equals mc squared, but most people don't fully understand what it means.
What it means, yeah.
It's energy equals mass times the speed of light squared.
Correct.
So we know that the speed of light is a really big number.
Right. But it's also a set value that we can use.
Exactly. It's a standard. It's a scientific standard. So that number is already being squared. So it's multiplied by itself. So that's a huge number.
Correct.
And then that's multiplied by the mass of whatever it is you're trying to find the energy in. So you're talking a huge number for a relatively, because even if your mass is 1,
that huge number times 1 is still going to be a huge number.
Exactly. So when you realize that you're talking about the amount of energy that is contained in an amount of mass, it's astronomical.
Yeah.
Literally. Once you wrap your brain around that part, that's where this ginormous explosion from this relatively small, because the uranium spheres were about like this.
Yeah, like a tennis ball size. Golf ball size.
No, like a softball, I think.
About the same size as a tennis ball.
It's bigger than a tennis ball.
Okay.
Tennis ball's the same size as a baseball, but a softball's bigger. Anyway, ask Marcel. She'll know.
I know what softballs are.
But anyway, understanding that and the fact that there is energy harnessed in matter, and that veers into string theory and quantum mechanics, one of my favorite topics that I desperately want to talk about on the podcast once Michael immerses himself in the knowledge of it so that he feels like he can talk about it. That book actually doesn't even go much into quantum mechanics. It goes into a little bit, but
it gives me enough to talk about, though.
Oh yeah, it's really good and it's funny.
I'm just looking at when the Trinity bomb went off.
Yeah.
We're 79 years away from that.
Wow.
Next year will be 80 years.
Yeah. 25, 45, yeah.
And we're no better off as a country with the science behind it.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. Just honestly, it's slightly impressive that we're still here.
That we haven't done anything with it since.
Yeah. Because, but that's what I want to get into next is really, so what was the aftermath of it? Obviously, we know the aftermath of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the devastation of those two cities.
Mm-hmm. But universally.
Yeah, when you look at it in terms of, what was the aftermath on the entire world. I mean, even when you go into the next set of
like test sessions, I guess.
Even when you go into the next test missions of when they started testing them at sea.
Mm-hmm.
The first one that they did was at Bikini Atoll. Did you know that Bikini Atoll was inhabited?
No.
It was not just a barren island where nobody lived. There was a tribe of people who lived there, and they had to be relocated. The American government basically said, hey, we're going to move you off to this other island. Take all your stuff with you because you won't be able to come back. Thanks.
And this on Columbus Day.
Yeah, I mean, how appropriate.
We're really good at just relocating people and coming and take what we want, aren't we?
Well, exactly. I mean, and you think about, us doing that to the Native Americans and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, recent as that was, well, and probably all of those, I mean, I know that specifically for Bikini Atoll, but probably all of those tests that were done at different places and whatnot, mm-hmm. were, they would have to relocate people. So
let's not even look at the people aspect of it. They'll think of the nature aspect. What other animals and organisms died because of that right there?
So I watched a documentary specifically on Bikini Atoll and how it was done last week, and it was pretty brutal because they relocated the natives, but the sailors, they didn't even really give the sailors protection because so they set up these test ships because they wanted to see how
what the damage would do to a vessel,
right? Mm-hmm. And so after the test, they had sailors go aboard these vessels and inspect the damage and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the part that you're not going to want to hear, they had animal test subjects that were tied up on the ships so that they could see what the effects were on them. So anyway, but they sent the sailors onto these ships without any protection, any kind of coverings or anything like that. Now the higher ups had like covers on their shoes and were wearing gloves and things like that. But then the sailors were just expected to go without any kind of protection, and they had no idea what they were walking into. And they, most of them, for that matter, developed cancer, and many of them died as a result. One thing that I didn't look into that I would be interested to find out is if they were able to ever sue the government or the Navy for that.
I don't think they sued. I bet you they probably paid some kind of restitution to the families.
I mean, even if they did that, I would feel a little bit better about it. They should have done something, though. But then, of course, that leads us into the Cold War, and the height of the Cold War, of course, was the Cuban Missile Crisis,
mm-hmm.
where you have what they thought were nuclear missiles being moved into Cuba, which, granted today, mm-hmm. we have intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, that can just, reach us no problem from wherever. But when were ICBMs first developed, I wonder?
I don't know. I looked up the Russian, like when did Russia develop its first or drop its first bomb was actually in 49. So it was actually 4 years after.
Yeah.
I'm looking up something right now about, because there was the Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. That's what I was thinking about.
Oh, yeah, the spies.
Yeah, because when you think about that, they're the reasons why Russia was able to develop its bomb as fast as they did, because...
Yeah, they stole the plans and gave it to him. And that was, so, okay, every time that I've ever taught the Crucible, that's always a lesson that I go into, because we talk about the Cold War and the Red Scare and how it really started with Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, because they were not Soviets, they were Americans.
Yeah,
who the Soviets were able to get to,
sympathizers,
and to I don't even think they were necessarily sympathizers. I think they just did it for the money.
Well,
because the Soviets, paid them to.
I'm trying to think. That. Wasn't there a movie about them recently though?
I don't know.
Their children are still alive.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow. I wonder what it's like to live with that legacy.
They wrote a book in 1975 called We Are Your Sons, the Legacy of Ethel and Julius Rosenberg.
Oh, wow.
Their current position is that their dad was legally guilty of the conspiracy charge, though not of atomic spying, while their mother was only generally aware of his activities.
But she was executed still.
Yeah. They continue a campaign for their mother to be legally exonerated after death.
Oh, wow.
And they're still doing it. They're still fighting for her pardon.
That's a tough call, because you do legally have like spousal privilege where you can't be compelled to testify against your spouse.
So there's a book that came out in 2021 called Ethel Rosenberg, A Cold War Tragedy. You might like that one. I could have swore there was a film about that. Maybe it was a documentary I watched.
Probably. That would be worthy of a movie, though, for sure.
This is a really dark podcast episode.
It really is. That I knew it was going to be going into it, but I was like, hey, you picked it.
I didn't pick it.
You agreed to it. It was the only thing that you sounded like,
absolutely not. Do not put that on me. I did not pick this darkness. My nose I may pick, but this topic I did not.
We mutually agreed to it.
I need to stop calling you at 7 o'clock in the morning on my way to work.
Why?
Because that's when we start talking about this kind of stuff, and that's where your ideas start coming. I think you're still halfway sleeping.
I am. Most of the time I forget that we had the conversation.
Oh, no. Every time I mention podcast, your little ears perk up. Podcast? What?
No, we came up with this topic at like 7 o'clock at night.
That's when I'm sleeping. So I forgot that.
All right. Well, then let's carry on and let's finish this.
Let's talk about philosophy. Go there, since that's where your main topics are.
Like I said, so after the Cold, because that's essentially what the Cold War was all about. It was this existential dread that everybody lived with under the threat of the Soviets are going to bomb us at any minute, and the Soviets under the threat of the U.S. is going to bomb us at any minute.
Yeah.
So, and I think, we are in an interesting, we talk about the fact that we're Zennials all the time on here. But I think we're at an interesting point in history, or we were born into an interesting point in history that we lived through the very end of the Cold War. Do you have memories as a child about the Cold War and realizing it?
No, you have to understand that your parents were very much into keeping up with current affairs and stuff like that. My mom really wasn't. She was just living her daily life.
Right.
So we didn't really have those conversations, and we didn't have exposure to it.
See, I grew up in a home where we watched the evening news every night.
Yeah.
And I remember there were a few times when Mom would kind of quietly tell Dad, change the channel during the news. And so they tried to kind of shelter me from it, but there were certain things that like I said, I just had this sense of unease that I knew tension. I was this tension that I was not supposed to have firsthand knowledge of, but nevertheless I could sense it. And it really wasn't until after the Cold War ended into the 90s, as I got a little bit older and started to understand it, that it really kind of dawned on me, like this sense of, oh, holy crap, that's what I was experiencing, what I was living through. And it was through, of course, like movies, like, did you ever see the Matthew Broderick movie War Games? Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I finally saw that as like I don't know, I was probably 12 or 13 at the time.
Old enough to understand what was going on.
Exactly. Yeah. That was one of the first times when I was like, wow. Mm-hmm. And then I remember there was this movie that came out when I was a teenager that I just loved for some reason. Well, actually, I know why. It was the lead actor I thought was really cute in it. He was a nobody, but it was this movie with John Goodman.
John Goodman was the lead actor in it?
No.
I was gonna say.
No, it was about a teenage boy. And so, but no, John Goodman played this. I don't know if he was a movie director. I think he was. Anyway, the movie was called Matinee.
I've never heard of it.
And it was actually really, I mean, I liked it as a teenager. I don't know that I need to watch it again and see if it still stands the test of time or if it was just, me being a teenager and liking it. But anyway, it was about a boy whose father, I think, was in the Air Force. Either the Air Force or the Navy, and they were stationed in Florida. And it was the movie takes place during the 13 days of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Mm-hmm. And so he's worried about his father. His mom is like an emotional wreck, kind of. But there's this movie coming out that was kind of modeled on the movie Them, which was an actual B movie that came out in the 50s about these ants that were irradiated or whatever by an atomic explosion, and they grew to this massive size and were attacking a town. But I think Matinee in the movie in Matinee that they were talking about, I think it was just one ant. I don't remember.
That reminded me of one of my favorites as a 15-year-old, though, The Hunt for Red October.
Oh, yeah.
Like that was, I had to check the date on that. They came out in 1990.
Yes.
But I remember being 15 and being like, this is a really good film.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of, and in that movie, you could definitely feel the tension.
Oh, yeah.
Between everything. So.
Yeah. Because it was Sean Connery was he was a Russian captain who was defecting, basically, wasn't he?
Right, heading towards
but he did it by
Coast.
Stealing a whole
submarine
a nuclear sub from the Soviets. But yeah, so experiencing what it was like through movies like that, and then I think I've told, because I watched it again not that long ago, the movie The Day After. Mm-hmm. It was the ABC movie of the week that Reagan watched even, and that was sort of like the impetus for him to tell Gorbachev to let's call a truce to this. Anyway, the reason I say all that is because I feel that same tension that I felt as a kid coming back in the world, and the tension with Israel, the Palestinians, and now Lebanon. I feel that same sense coming back. There was a book by Annie Jacobson just called Nuclear War, and I haven't read it yet, but apparently it essentially just describes what would happen if the world were involved in a nuclear war at this point. Mm-hmm. And so it occurred to me, even though the Cold War ended, there are still in these different moments of tension where that same existential dread kind of comes back. Do you remember that episode of Madam Secretary where they thought that there were actually incoming missiles, and remember she decided not to go to the bunker?
Yeah.
And she stayed with her kids in the Dave & Buster's or wherever it was they were.
Yep. And they all hugged, and then nothing happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And remember that was, when did that come out? Like 5 years ago or so, maybe? Yeah. Something like that. So, and that was before, the issues in Israel. That was before Ukraine was invaded and things like that. So, it's kind of always been there. And I guess probably ever since the atomic bomb was developed, there was this sense of, okay, now we have the power to completely exterminate all of humanity, and I think there's been this sort of common thread of, God, I wish we had never known this. But now let's talk about, nuclear power has not been all bad, because we've found ways to use it for good. We have nuclear power plants that generate energy. Now, those can also go bad. You know, we saw that with Chernobyl and Fukushima and 3 Mile Island. But, you know, for the most part, they have a pretty good track record as long as they're maintained and you know, everything. All of those instances were where, you know, governments or companies had dropped the ball somewhere. So as long as there's oversight and they're maintained, you know, it's a safe and efficient means of power production. So it's not all bad, but I feel like, you know, when, and it's called, you know, by science and history, you know, harnessing the power of the atom. I think in doing that, you know, it is a pretty terrifying thing because, you know, it's what, I mean, granted it's fission and not fusion, but it's what happens in stars, you know, and it's what creates the building blocks of the universe and the world and planets and things like that. So us, for that matter, you know, I just think that's kind of terrifying. Nevertheless, we have it and here we are.
And on that note, let's look at trivia.
Oh God, no, we have to end that better than that.
I think we need to come back and revisit this to put a spin on it.
So in addition to nuclear energy, as far as power plants and things like that, you also had developments that benefited us in a lot of other ways. The other biggest one being medicine, because, you know, we have all these different means of, you know, before we just had x-rays to rely on, and now we have all these different things that use nuclear isotopes and things like that I have no idea about. And all that was developed because of, you know, harnessing the power of the atom. Agriculture as well has been changed by it.
This says fertilizers and insect control.
That's agriculture.
I mean, are you over there nuclear dropping on your grasshopper problems?
I don't know how it works.
I mean, there's one right there. Let's get a nuclear ray gun.
Now, so there was this, when I was still teaching at Waccamaw, one summer, we had this awful ant infestation. And the janitors gave us this insect spray that they had. Let me tell you, we used that stuff and we started calling it the atomic bomb, because you would spray them and you would see them literally just immediately, like there was no wiggling of legs, nothing. It was on contact, boom, and they would just be laid out like people in an atomic blast or something. And so it was, that's what we started calling that stuff. We would see more and we would be like, okay, bring the atomic bomb. Yeah, I got that, thanks. And then, but anyway, other benefits, transportation as well has been a big.
We have nuclear powered ships.
Yeah.
So, as a power source, though, for just like cities.
Yeah.
They use the same thing reactor wise as far as that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, like, you know, development of electric cars and stuff like that was a result somehow of that. I don't know how.
I think you're far stretching that.
I don't know. That's just what the website said.
Right. But
that's from the World Nuclear Association, by the way.
Okay.
So anyway, our point, you know, we want to end on a high note, of course. So, you know, yes, atomic bombs bad.
It's hard to end on a high note on this subject.
I know, but
especially with the way the world is.
I'm trying here, man. Work with me. But anyway, you know, yes, the atomic bomb bad, but other discoveries that we have made through nuclear technology have and do benefit us in today's world.
Yes, because I use nuclear energy right now.
I mean, we probably are. I don't know what power plant.
Texas. Actually, I think there is one south of us.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not where we get our energy from.
We're not on the Texas grid, though.
No, we're not. But again, we're still...
Anyway, what you giving me?
A history.
How appropriate. Okay.
And in this week's trivia segment, Brandon's going to get 6 history questions. There was one question on the previous page I was going to look at and do that one, but it said, what is the tallest building in the U.S.? So right now, I don't think the Sears Tower is still the tallest building in the U.S., so it's outdated. So
yeah,
isn't it One World Trade Center now?
Yeah, I believe so.
So who was made director of the FBI as of September 4th, 2001? This is right before
the director of the FBI in 2001, so just before 9/11.
Right. And he was assigned as the special investigator into former President Trump's stuff. And he had this big report that came out in the summer 2 summers ago or 3 summers ago.
Oh, was it yeah, him. All I can say in my head or see in my head right now is Donald Rumsfeld, which was he was first Homeland Security Secretary.
Right.
Mueller.
Yes, Robert Mueller was the first. Okay.
Not first.
He was the made director of the FBI. Okay. What had 1,919 people reached the top of by the end of 2003?
Mount Everest?
Yes.
Yep.
It's a weird question. What kind of gun was used to kill Abraham Lincoln?
A Colt?
No.
Smith & Wesson?
No, a Derringer.
Oh.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
What other man besides Paul Revere was originally sent out to warn the Patriots that the British were coming in April 18th, 1775?
Oh, I knew this. I don't remember.
William Doss.
Okay.
What was Al Capone's nickname?
Scarface.
Is that what the movie's about?
No, the movie is about... I've actually never seen Scarface.
Me neither.
But no, it's about another, like, modern gangster of that time.
Okay.
Anyway.
Which king was crowned in Scotland in 1651?
King crowned in Scotland. So it would have been whoever followed James the First.
Well, it's not a James.
That wasn't Charles, was it? Charles the First?
The second.
Second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so then was he... I forget where that falls in the... whatever that was called.
Let me pick my page real fast. Hold on.
No, you're not picking your page. Ooh, I know this one. How many bits are there in a byte?
Bits is past tense. Byte is present tense.
What? No.
I mean, if I bit you, that's past tense.
I mean, yeah, but it's not even that kind of a byte. It's a BYTE.
I don't know how many.
I think it's 8. Let's see if I'm right.
8 bits to a byte?
Uh-huh. Yes, it's 8.
That's a cool song title.
8 bits to a byte.
That's a drinking song right there.
Number 2. What common garden flowers are fed to chickens to give their skin an appealing golden color?
Dandelions.
No, close. Marigolds.
Oh.
What flaming dessert was created at Brennan's restaurant in New Orleans in the 1950s?
Bananas Foster.
Mm-hmm. Now I want some. Number 4. What alternative name for black cumin is... let me start that over. What alternative name for black cumin is also the name of a TV cook?
A TV cook is a modern TV cook?
I mean, she's still on, yeah.
I have no idea.
You probably won't get this because you don't watch the Food Network ever, hardly.
Who is it?
Nigella.
I don't even know who that is.
Nigella Lawson, you don't know her?
Mm-mm.
Oh, yeah. She's a TV cook. Number 5. What did Clive Sinclair call the world's first pocket calculator launched in 1972?
What did he call the first pocket calculator?
He invented it, I'm assuming, or marketed it at least.
The first pocket calculator? Was it a Casio?
No. It's the model name, I guess.
I don't know.
The Sinclair Executive. He named it after himself.
The hoity-toity. Do you happen to have your Sinclair?
Your Sinclair Executive model. Oh. What tool did Charles Monk invent? Moncke. Oh.
The hoe.
Think about it. Moncke. Maybe his last name is Charles Monkey.
Monkey wrench.
Yes.
Okay. Monkey wrench.
All right.
Okay. That does it for this week's depressing and downy episode.
I will try to edit this to be as up as it possibly can.
Next week, we promise to be...
We will choose a lighthearted topic that is free of death and dismay.
Yes. Ooh. All right. That does it for us this week.
Thanks so much for listening. Hope you join us next week.
We hope for seriously after this
one, yeah.
We want really you to come back. We promise it'll be a lot better.
We will not go depressy on you.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to From Art to Atoms, the Ultimate Curiosity Show, episode number 11. Your hosts are Brandon Shoemaker and myself, Michael Fultz. The show is produced by Brandon Shoemaker and is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to stay up to date on all of our latest episodes and news. If you have any questions, feedback, or suggested topics you'd like for us to dive into, don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach us at FromArtToAtoms@gmail.com. We would love to hear from all of our listeners, and we value all of your input. Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated on upcoming episodes and behind-the-scenes content. You can find us on Instagram at From Art to Atoms. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platforms. Your support helps us reach even more interested minds like yours. Thanks for tuning in, and stay curious, everyone.